for the fire department. So we did make a motion that our intent is to continue to. I'm gonna pull up the minutes.
Well,
We'll
that's
do
the
that.
thing, you can find it.
Not in a public
So
meeting.
Yes, we did.
One of the things we
No.
talked about last
No.
evening, which,
Never
to
happened.
throw it back to what you can understand, you talk about buying police cruisers, you talk about buying road equipment, and the expense of it. We each have 2 pumpers. So if we stagger when we buy those, we figured it's good for 20 years, so it's every 3 years, we're gonna spend $700,000 on a pumper. Every 3 years.
One of the departments.
One of the departments is gonna buy it, okay? So, divide that out, that's $230,000 a year that we have to budget for a pumper over a 20-year period.
And that doesn't.
And it keeps coming around.
Maintenance.
Now we get 88,000 per company. We're real short of 230. Where do we come up with that? And that's what we're looking at. This township keeps growing. We're going to grow the police department in the next year. We're going to grow the road crew in the next year, so take care of the many miles of public highways that we have. Fire department has to grow too. We need money. It's got to come out of the tax base somehow. We just want to make sure that we get our fair share so that we can continue doing what we're doing. So it's going to fall back into your lap.
We need it, we need you to continue to.
Right, and we're willing,
So,
we're constantly struggling to be able to, but, we're willing to do it, but we need the money.
What do you think the millage needs to be?
Well, we're allowed 3 mills.
We're talking 3.
We have 2 now, we're allowed 3. No one hates to increase the taxes, but
No, it doesn't have to be a tax increase. It can come out of the general fund.
well, no, but we're allowed 3 mills tax for fire.
I'm aware of that.
So just
Well, you're
enact the
saying
other.
you don't have to raise it to 3, you can give us the difference out of the general fund.
Right.
Right.
I mean, that's what we're here to talk about. That's all we're talking about, future, and everything costs money. We replaced our 300,000 trucks, now
and that's good,
700,000.
because you let us know exactly what you needed for, you're talking about replacing some.
Well, and that's just the trucks. We're all talking, our buildings are falling apart. Our building was built in 1956. Euston was built a couple years before that. Lawrence was built after that. They have a building that is a metal building that they've added on to. We're sitting here in a multi-million-dollar facility, and yet our fire departments are, 50 years old, falling apart.
You opted a firefighter now for.
We are running a business and running calls every day, replacing trucks on $88,000 a year, which I don't think is a lot.
Just out of curiosity, you talked about your 5- and 10-year plans. Would you be willing to share those with us?
Yes, because we're based on some
Share
of
what
the
with-
different, some of the feedback we get tonight, we want to formulate these new plans. We're actually getting together as a group for the first time. We had our individual stuff, but there's some things we can consolidate on, some things are individual, but we have no problem with it. In fact, justification of money, whatever, or tracking it.
We're just about ready to formulate this. We've been sitting down for a couple of months now. We don't have a full draft yet. Once we do, we'll come in and share.
You'll be able to show us what you can share and what you can't.
Yeah,
what you actually.
We need to know baseline of what we have to work with before we can.
I mean, we're totally
Do
transparent.
this.
We're totally transparent. Our goals might be Willy Wonka dreamlike, but,
Yeah, we're trying to transparent. We're
I
gonna
would
know
say
exactly
start
what
with the
we're
dream
doing.
and then come back to
what
it.
I'm fighting with is the toll road. I know it's not here yet, I keep talking about, but we're probably gonna have to run 2 rescues per call per PennDOT requirement. And we don't have 2 rescues right now. And so, we have to find a way to be ready when it opens, not after 5 years after it's
Exactly, it's coming sooner than
Yeah,
later.
yes.
I know they're starting on the bridge out
So
there
that's,
now.
put
And
a
I
different
know
onus
they're
on
gonna
us all.
share some of the expense of us going up there, but it's not gonna cover it all.
Right, and we're limited, even if someone gave us a truck tomorrow, where we park it, we have 2.5 bay fire station.
Because I know next year around where I live, they haven't purchased my property off me yet, but they have to. And that's the final design on that area in 2015.
Right.
So I've already met with PennDOT once already, so it's coming. I mean, there's people that are saying it's 5 years, 10 years down the road, that's coming a lot sooner.
Exactly.
And I think that's what we're doing. But I think we need to be ready for that too. I think a good idea is what you're doing, getting your plan together, and you could show us what you're really talking about, what you need funding-wise that way.
And what we're saying is we can't do that unless you give us a
Unless we know
clue.
where it's based.
As to what we have to work with.
Exactly.
I think
Otherwise, it's a pipe dream. You know,
But I
can
just
design
said-
$1 million building, but if I can't fund it, there's no sense designing it.
Just from a business perspective, though, you
Wait.
really don't, that's kind of working backwards. You want to come up with, what is our dream? What, if we had, not unlimited funding, but if we had 3 mils,
If you have
what could
3
we do?
meals, that's right.
And then,
What can you do?
what can we do with it? And you want to present a plan to us or to whoever and say, this is what we can do with 3 mils. And then go from there. And if we give you 3 mils, then you can go with that. If we give you 2.5, then you can go with that. And I'm not saying we're going to give you 3 mils.
No, that
I'm
makes
okay
sense,
with it.
but that makes sense. We're also in a unique situation where it's a possibility there's township land that you're gonna donate, or some business will donate an acre, or as part of the development. So we can't say we're gonna go out and purchase at commercial rates. I mean, you want us to buy a lot, South Point, put a South Point station in, you know, we have the budget to pay retail, right? Let me finish, but, so the point is, we also have the grant things, and there's some things, and Elizabeth brought up at the meeting of possibly getting grant writers for the township to work on some of these funds that are out there. So basically, we're not just asking for money from you, we're basically looking at the big picture. Hey, maybe we get grant, maybe we get federal funds for some of these buildings. Now, if we go the public safety route, I don't know what Sean's thing is, but I heard at one time they wanted an office in South Point area, or, you know, if we had something on that side of the building. We're also working with EMS, who's not represented here tonight, but the Lawrence side is we definitely have a delay in response for medical. We are beefing up our medical on our own, but we're trying to work with Dan, but the problem I hear is he can't even get a guarantee that he's gonna be here long enough. So if I wanna write a grant for police, fire, and EMS over in the Lawrence side on 79, which could cover the interstate better, could cover South Point, help them at South Point, you know, get to the interstate better, we need some kind of commitment in people going in the same direction.
I think
That
we're
makes sense?
talking about different things, though. I agree, and I hear.
Well,
what
I'm not
you're
gonna do
saying.
that on 3 mills. I mean, you talk about a business plan, 3 mills is not gonna run a fire department in this township,
We understand.
full-time, I mean, anywhere.
We understand.
We
So
need
I'm-
another one
I'm-
up right
I'm
now, and
giving
you're
you-
talking about 10 more to do this.
What's North St. Peter's up to 24 paid personnel, I mean, and they make a piece of money. So,
Yeah, but Peters has a budget 4 times what we have.
Yes, they do.
but they don't have a cell phone.
But there's
We
still-
have, I mean, you look at the responsibilities.
But they still have a budget to work with, it's a lot bigger.
Right, and it's not,
And
they put
I
that here.
went through that
Yes.
process, because I'm comfortable, I know the fire department from school.
But it also comes to a point that you oversell the township, or you promising business and stuff they can't.
I think we're on the same page there.
Yeah.
We're looking to try to see what we can do, work something out to
Right.
help you.
Right.
And I think you guys are doing everything that you need to do too by trying to get together and consolidate.
Right, but every time you okay a building or a development, you've encumbered me, my future, you know, my children, everybody in this township, more than a 2% or a 1% increase in the fire tax. I mean, that's forever. If you put a building up and, you know, you're talking about, we can't say we're gonna give you 2 mills for 5 years. You just put a whole new development in, that's gonna be forever. You can encumber the boards for future generations forever, right? I mean, that's why we don't understand what the problem is.
Another question we had too, that we come up with, when you, give these places the tax rebate for,
Alert a program for the businesses.
is that even on the fire tax?
The way I understand it, it's the 2 mills on every, the tax that they're paying. And if they're getting a tax break, then they're getting a break on that 2 mills temporarily too, for those years.
That was our consideration, is that we don't give them 20% of our effort the first year and 40% the second and 60% the third. We give them 100% from day one, so that 2% ought to be 100% from the day one when they're given their occupancy permit.
Kind of preaching.
Their 2% should be 100%, not 20%.
We hear you, but we have
I
no
think
control.
Yeah, but is that something we can find out? Because I've heard both sides of that story. I've heard that the fire tax is collected 100% and the fire tax is in percentages for these buildings. So is that something we can get a definite?
It goes from every year changes, so it starts at 0 and then goes up as a percentage. I can get you the percentage, but we can't change it.
I
We wish,
understand.
Andy and I talked about it.
I know what Ed's saying is, Ed's saying it works out both ways, that it's still on a total.
Okay.
It's always
Okay.
tax on the land. The first year is no tax on the land. The second year is 20%, the
Right.
third year is 40, the fourth year is 60, the fifth year is 80, and the sixth year is 100% assessment on the building.
And see that, and I was told at one point, I don't know who told me, it was a while ago, that some taxes such as the fire, the 2 mil fire tax is exempt from that, and that's elected.
I don't know that.
So that's what I'm,
We
it's
find
not,
that out.
definitely not.
I don't think that it is, we can double check it again.
It is not, it
You
is,
get a
it is
chance.
not exempt from, unfortunately.
Why not? Why not?
So wait, let Tom speak.
Because that's probably the way it was written.
It's all negotiable to begin with, but it's not worth discussing now because all the exemptions are about done. And I don't mean the 5 years so much as they only have one parcel left that's not accounted for. So even if we changed it and dropped the alerta, it's only one building.
But then we're gonna start on South Point too, we're gonna be in the same.
I'm talking about South
That's
Point.
the
It's
last-
Yeah,
all-
well, Buffalo Valley is getting ready for
No, that's a-
960 acres.
They're not asking for alerta though.
Okay, so when the sewer line makes it on 980 and there's a couple thousand acres of farmland that opens up.
It's
How
not
about them?
across the board, it's negotiated every time.
For
So,
each plan, it has to be, the government has to be involved first, like the county, like the redevelopment authority initially did South Point One, and the authority is doing South Point Two. When it's tied in with the private-public development, then you can do LRTA or TIFs. But if it's just farmland developing into residential, like the plan next to your fire department, there's not even a question whether they could ask for LRTA or TIF, they're not even trying to.
That's great, that explains a lot. And you know how boomers are, Cecil County. Basically, what we're trying to find out is the fire tax is being collected properly, if we can get more or not, or if it's 100%, or are we getting all of it? Is it being properly collected and
It
divvied
was
out?
set up to
Not,
be.
you know what I mean, in the big picture, are they forgetting that they could maybe put the fire tax on, but not the real estate tax, you know what I'm
It
saying?
wasn't forgotten, it was just something that everybody who's on it now, they're grandfathered in for full, your tax, it's a special tax, but
Right.
it's still a real estate tax on the building, so they're all grandfathered in. Like I said, there's probably only one lot that's,
Right.
and lots, I mean, it's even
And I
spoken.
understand that, that's fine, and so what I'm saying is,
And
you
you're
talk
saying
about the
that-
budget meeting, hold on, about the budget meeting, is the projected budget, is the actual taxes, what percentage do you see growing now that some of this stuff is wearing off, or are we peak, are we maxed, or is it gonna be
Well, no,
5%, 10%?
We know, we can.
I mean, in the village, over.
We know exactly what, as each building comes off, where they're at, if they're in their second, third, fourth, or fifth year.
Just say we, with the 2 mills, I mean, which is history, is 2 mills gonna be increased by 5% next year, 10%? Do we
we
know?
can
I
easily
mean,
find that out for you if that's what you.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be part of the plan, that's what we're asking for. Even if you